Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This time we're going to be looking at the 1971 Ibrox disaster. Firstly, we will take a brief look at a disaster that occurred before then. This was the incident that occurred during the 1902 home international between Scotland and England. The rear of the Wooden West turbine stand collapsed due to heavy rainfall the previous night, causing 25 deaths and more than 500 injuries. If you look at the picture that's on the screen now, this is Ibrox in 1910 with the Copland Road exit to the far corner of the stadium, and an equivalent staircase can be seen descending the nearest corner. During 1963, concerns were raised about the safety of the stairway adjacent to passageway 13. This was known as stairway 13, the exit closest to Copland Road subway station. It was documented that the stairs provided very little freedom of movement due to crowd pressure. Many were lifted off their feet by the crowd and had no choice in which lane they were going to use or at what pace. On the 16th of September 1961, 2 people were killed in a crush on the stairway. In 1967, 8 spectators were injured when leaving the stadium. In 1969, 26 were injured in an accident on stairway 13 during egress. No measures were taken to consult a professional firm to discuss the potential danger from crowds on stairway 13 following these events. Subsequent to the 1961 accident, Rangers had by then spent a total of £150,000, equivalent to 3.2 million roughly in today's money, on improvements to Ibrox, a significant sum of money for the time. So on to the disaster of 1971. 62 people were killed in a crush as supporters tried to leave the stadium. The match was an Old Firm game, Rangers versus Celtic, and was attended by more than 80,000 fans. In the 90th minute, Celtic took a 1-0 lead through Jimmy Johnston. But in the final moments of the match, Colin Stein, I hope I pronounced that right, scored an equaliser for Rangers. As thousands of spectators were leaving the ground by stairway 13, it appears that some may have fallen, causing a massive chain reaction pile-up of people. Initially, there was speculation that some fans left the ground slightly early when Celtic scored, but then turned back when they heard the crowd cheering when Stein scored the equaliser, colliding with fans leaving the ground when the match ended. The official inquiry into the disaster indicated that there was no truth in this hypothesis, however, as all of the spectators were heading in the same direction at the time of collapse. Most of the deaths were caused by compressive asphyxia, with bodies being stacked up to 6 feet deep in the area. More than 200 other fans were injured. Kenny Dalglish, then a Celtic player, was in the stands when the tragedy occurred. Dalglish was also present at the Heysel and Hillsborough disasters in 1985 and 1989 respectively with Liverpool. 66 people died on the day at the stadium as a result of injuries incurred during the disaster. Of those who died, all were aged under 50. 61 were under 40, 49 were under 30, 33 were under 20, and 1 was aged under 10. The loss included many children, 5 of whom, Peter Easton, Martin Patton, Mason Phillips, Brian Todd and Douglas Morrison, were schoolmates from the same town of Markinch in Fife. I hope I pronounced that right. The loss also included 31 teenagers, including the only female victim, 18-year-old Margaret Ferguson of Maddiston, Stirlingshire. The youngest child to die was 9-year-old Nigel Pickup of Liverpool. More than 200 people were reported to have suffered injuries. The disaster spurred the UK government to look into the safety of sports grounds. In February 1971, Scottish Judge Lord Wheatley was asked to conduct an inquiry. His findings, published in May 1972, formed the basis for the Guide to Safety at Sports Grounds, also known as the Green Guide, first published in 1973. The 1971 disaster led to a huge redevelopment of Ibrox Park, spearheaded by the then manager Willie Waddle, who visited Borussia Dortmund Stadium for inspiration. After 3 years reconstruction work, with 3/4 of the ground being replaced by modern all-seater stands, Ibrox Park was converted to a 44,000 capacity stadium in 1981. Further work in the 1990s increased the stadium's capacity to 50,000, and Ibrox was subsequently awarded UEFA 5-star status. The Scottish folk singer and songwriter Matt McGinn wrote a song called The Ibrox Disaster as a tribute to people who died in the tragic event. A fatal accident inquiry was held in Glasgow, which opened on the 15th of February 1971. It lasted 7 days, although the jury of 4 men and 3 women had been instructed not to make recommendations around safety precautions at football grounds, because an inquiry led by Lord Wheatley would be examining this. Sheriff James Irvine Smith, in his statement after a civil damages trial raised at Glasgow Sheriff Court in May 1974 by the widow of one of the Ibrox victims, ruled that the said accident was due to the fault and negligence of the defenders, Rangers FC, and Smith found Rangers guilty on 4 counts in the case of the death of Charles Dugan, a 31-year-old boilermaker from Clydebank who died, as did 56 others from traumatic asphyxia. After hearing a series of accidents in Stairway 13, including September 1961, when there were 70 people injured and 2 deaths, September 67, when 11 people were taken to hospital, and January 1969, when 29 people were injured, Sheriff Irvine Smith stated, "So far as the evidence is concerned, the board never so much as considered that it ought to apply its mind to the question of safety on that particular stairway, and would appear, if put it no higher, to have proceeded on the view that if the problem was ignored long enough, it would eventually go away. Indeed, it goes further than this, because certain of their actions can only be interpreted as a deliberate and apparently successful attempt to deceive others that they were doing something when in fact they were doing nothing." In the case of Charles Dugan and the further 60 cases brought by the relatives of the dead, Rangers did not dispute the findings of Sheriff Irvine Smith, and instead merely disputed the calculation of the damages, as can be seen from the appeal judgment on the sheriff principle. In his book, Irvine Smith states that almost 40 years after his decision, he was viewed with disapproval by some Rangers supporting friends, who accused him of disloyalty. For some years after the 1971 disaster, there was only a small plaque at the corner of the ground where it happened. However, in 1995, Rangers announced plans to commemorate the 66 fans killed in the disaster. On the 2nd of January 2001, the 30th anniversary of the tragedy, a larger monument was unveiled at the corner of the Bill Struth main stand and the Copland Road stand. The monument contains blue plaques displaying the names of each person killed in all 3 incidents. The statue of John Krieg, the Rangers captain at the time of the 1971 disaster, stands at the top of the monument. In 2011, the 40th anniversary of the disaster was commemorated before the Old Firm game on the 2nd of January 2011, when a 1-minute silence was observed before the game. Both teams wore black armbands as a sign of respect and were led out by John Krieg and Billy McNeil, the respective club captains at the time of the disaster, although McNeil had not played due to injury. And that ends the video, folks. A rather sad story, and I'd like to dedicate this video to all of the victims of each of the disasters that have happened at Ibrox. I hope you've liked the video. You know what I mean by that. So give it a like if you think it's a decent tribute. Also share it, and if you want, subscribe to my channel should you wish. So until the next video, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and goodbye for now.